What do insanely poor people buy that ordinary people know nothing about? Growing up, my family had its moments of struggle. Our public transport system at the time had tickets which were simply hole punched with the date and month, not the year. So we'd save them and store them neatly in envelopes marked by month and concession or full fare. After a few years of saving tickets, we pretty much had free train and bus travel for the next 10 years. Until they changed the ticketing system to electronically stamped tickets with barcodes. My office only has a unisex bathroom, so it has the facilities for men and women. Naturally, there's a tampon machine, and tampons are only 5 cents. Once a month I'll work late, get a roll of nickels and fill up a grocery sack with tampons for my wife. I was so poor once that I would go to Long John Silver's and order a water and crunchies, which used to be free, then sit there and watch the people that would dine in. It was amazing how little they ate. And then they would leave without dumping their tray off in the trash. Fries, hush puppies, chicken, fish, all untouched. No, I didn't eat a piece that was bitten off of. I once saw a woman order a 2-piece fish and more for her kid, that ate 1 hush puppy and a few fries, and then left the rest of it there. It was the best I had eaten in weeks. Glad that's behind me now. Lots of school systems do free lunches for kids under 18 during the summer. When I was a kid, I remember my dad taking us to get lunch at the school, then go play disc golf, soccer, or do something else free and fun. It was a blast, and I had no clue it was because we were poor. Dollar theaters, and sometimes they have a free afternoon evening show for kids with the purchase of a parent ticket. Many movies were seen by the 3 of us for $4 with a shared popcorn and Coke. My dad was amazing at making us feel rich on basically nothing. When I was a child, Burger King ran a special kids meal where it was 2 mini burgers that were attached to each other like a weird conjoined burger experiment. Sometimes we would go. My dinner was 1/5 of the mini burgers. My mom's dinner was the half I didn't eat, and she would fill up on the free refills of soda. My mom would buy a small personal pizza for my brother on special occasions, like if he did really well on a test at school or something. Even though it was only like $2, she couldn't afford anything for herself, so she would eat his leftover crust. She told me he would always tell her, "Mommy, are you hungry? Go buy one just for you," and she would just say, "No, I'm not hungry. I only want a little snack." She only just told me this a few years ago, and I was shocked because by the time I came along, my dad had gotten a good job and we lived just like anyone else. I had no idea that my older brother grew up like that. Stuff on layaway. My mom would always go to this store that sold heavily discounted irregulars and put it on layaway for our new school clothes. Many poor people buy a lot of eggs. Eggs are one of the cheapest and best tasting sources of protein. Enough for 6 meals costs less than $2. Many poorer people around where I live eat a lot of venison. If you have the time to go stand in the woods during deer season, you can get yourself 70 or 80 pounds of meat really cheaply, especially if you do your own butchering. My wife won't eat venison. When she was young and poor and first starting out years ago, that was the only meat they had to feed the family for several years, and she doesn't ever want to see it again. Learning the times of the day when meat, bakery, fish, vegetable, and misc items are reduced to 75% at the local supermarket. I've been learning for years, but it's a good day when you find 400 grams of fresh mince for 99 pence, and you have warm, filling food that you used to take for granted when living with parents. One thing I've noticed about being poor is that you become almost vegetarian because meat just costs too damn much, frozen or fresh. Another thing would be buying the cheapest large container of yogurt and mixing in jam for fruity yogurt. But that's not about being poor, that's just a good idea. A buddy of mine went through a tough time a few years back, and I didn't know about it until he told me about a year ago. One thing that stuck with me was that he made just enough money to survive. By survive, he meant literally enough money to pay rent, utilities, and the cheapest, worst food he could buy. He couldn't afford transportation. Not even the bus. He told me about a span of a few months he went through where he literally only ate water, dry noodles, and peanut butter. For a few months. He worked at a restaurant and they cut his hours. He couldn't find other work. His first big reality check was that he had to sell his car to make rent 1 month. The next month he started selling other unnecessary items, like his old TV, some old appliances, and his nicer clothes. He got to the point where he was doing his laundry with dish soap in his sink. He couldn't afford deodorant, razors, or any of the things we take for granted. So he'd steal them from the grocery store. He didn't like to do it, but he had no choice. He never got caught. When he told me all of this, I was floored. I wish he would have told me when it was happening. I would have helped any way I could. At that time, I was by no means living a fancy lifestyle, but I could have thrown him a $20 spot here and there to help him put some groceries in the house or some toilet paper in the bathroom. Fuck. Just thinking about it makes me ill. He's still poor today, but he works full-time and is happy, at least from what I see. At-home surgery. Used a pair of needle nose pliers, a razor blade, and some antiseptic superglue to remove a cyst on my forehead. The secret is to cut it in a cat's eye shape. Quickly push the skin back after you pull the cyst out, don't let it pop, and get the glue on fast. Burn like 10 bitches on a bitch boat, but it bleeds a lot and you have to get it on quick to stop the bleeding. Powdered milk. I once worked in a call center and an old lady called almost in tears that cable went up by $1.50. Her line that she repeated more than once was that she couldn't afford fresh milk and had to buy powdered milk. Unless it's due to a lack of refrigeration available or some sort of allergy, only the very poor would buy powdered over fresh milk. We drank powdered milk growing up. It was terrible. Sometimes my mom would mix a bit of cream in to make it taste better. It didn't work. Yuck. Thanks for bringing up this painful memory. I knew a guy that would go to a livestock feed store and buy antibiotics and some other meds there that were meant for farm animals when he got sick. There was another med he'd get at pet stores too. He'd just cut the pills into smaller pieces to try to guess what the proper mg amount was. It's apparently crazy cheap for certain meds and doesn't require a prescription or govt. Oversight like it would at a normal pharmacy. Growing up was interesting regarding money. My mom was a hoarder and I lived in a house with trash, including animal waste everywhere, with no heat or running hot water. I used to take jugs of water and put them on my front porch to warm up enough to bath with. The house was failing apart and the tub was actually sinking into the ground, so we wouldn't use it, so I made a hole in the corner of my basement floor so it would drain. The worst was winter. The water never got warm because of the cold and my hair would be frozen since there was no heat. It took me a long time to figure out this wasn't normal. What made everything worse was she was abusive and made us poor with her spending. She made about $1,000 a week or more and would give it to charity so others saw her in a positive light. They didn't know about the house once she even won the lottery and got $82,000 and gave it all away. All I asked was for a trailer so we had some place to get warm or shower, but she saw nothing wrong with our life. There would also be days she gave our food money away and I wouldn't be able to eat if there was no school. My mother is a bitch and we have no contact anymore. On the awesome side, I have 4 kids in a 3-level house with 4 bathrooms. Guess who showers all the time with hot water now? In university, I used to buy a 20 pounds bags of potatoes, freeze-dried chives, and gravy mix in bulk, not the supermarket packs, which are $1 for 2 cups of gravy, restaurant-sized packs that make 8 liters. That was often dinner, usually at the end of the month when money got tight. Sometimes I had even saved enough that I could have mashed potatoes made with some sort of dairy or bacon grease. I also had a cheap tub of protein powder for weightlifters. It was gross. But I would blend it up, usually with water, hold my nose and gulp it down. It was actual protein and slightly more healthy than a week-long diet of potatoes. Rotten bananas, stale bread, gray meat, and anything else the grocery is about to toss in the garbage. Giant bags of rice, beans, grain, or flour. Canned vegetables. Dried milk. Handfuls of ketchup packets from McDonald's. Growing up, my mom used to tell me of a homeless guy she knew of that would go into the local McDonald's and get a free cup of hot water. Then proceeded to add ketchup, salt, and pepper to make himself a hobo tomato soup. Microloans. Those who need them the most get screwed the worst by the high interest rates. It's a vicious cycle that people need to be warned about. My father and sister and I would spend all Sunday picking up cans to be recycled at the lake. So while all the other families were enjoying their cookout, we would scavenge through garbage cans. We did this because our father would take us to McDonald's afterwards. So after a whole day we would trade the aluminum in for a few bucks. My father would order a Big Mac back when it was $1 and a small coffee. My sister and I would share the burger, she getting the part with 2 pieces of bun because she was older and I ate the solo. My father sat there and had multiple refills on his coffee. We spent many Sundays like that. I have a friend who, while growing up, a treat was him and his sister sharing one slice of pizza. This is in New York City. When I was growing up, my monthly treat was Burger King. Yep. We normally ate mac and cheese, spaghetti os, just spaghetti. Lots of pasta. My dad would get a bag of Reese's miniature peanut butter cups after his monthly paycheck and he'd eat one a night and the bag would last the month. For his birthday, he wanted a cherry pie instead of a cake. Mom saved up for the pie filling. Yeah, she saved for what was probably a $2 can of pie filling. Anyway, she bought enough for 2 pies and when I was helping her, legitimately, I accidentally dropped one of the pies. Splat. We didn't have the money to make another one. Man, I learned that day that when the money's gone, the money's gone. Thank God we didn't stay that poor. That was horrible. My mom used to take me to the shopping mall to look for new school clothes. I'd point out 5 outfits I like, one for each school day, and then we'd leave to go to the fabric store where she'd buy remnants in similar colors, styles, and then sew outfits that looked just like the things I pointed out in the store. Maybe it was my young eyes, but I honestly thought they looked just like what was in the store, minus the label. This was the 80s. Labels were big and prominent. Mean kids who wore the name brand stuff immediately picked on me for having fake or wannabe clothes. But I never told my mom because I knew she did her best for me, and even at a young age I felt like I shouldn't be a burden. Can I just say, Starbucks throws out individually wrapped sandwiches and whatnot. You'd have to live near one and dig through some truly foul trash, but it'll be good and clean. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Write your similar stories in the comments below the video. And also be sure to subscribe to our channel to not miss new super interesting videos, and I advise you to watch our other videos.